In between the ongoing battle for what will ultimately make Netflix completely self-implode first, we've just been treated to another season, well, half a season, of the obsessive serial killer seductor we all know and love, Joe Goldberg. AKA one of Netflix's final old-school tentpole series, in my opinion anyway, You. I say tentpole because let's face it, this is yet another show being wheeled out in 2 parts to try and keep retention, whilst ultimately also heading towards a finale conclusion, if not this season then presumably the next one. It's got a strong following and fan base, and well, yeah, as mentioned in the title of this very video, it's genuinely and consistently very bloody good, I reckon. I mean, how often can you say that about most shows these days? In fact, come to think of it, how often can you specifically say that about the content being pumped out and produced by Netflix lately? You has become somewhat of a pop culture phenomenon. I mean, it ticks all of the boxes. Great cast, attractive people, intrigue, suspense, sex, serial killers. What's not to love? The obsession with serial killers in modern culture is perhaps another topic for another day, but let's face facts here. You is somehow miraculously, in this day and age of instantly cancelable series, a good show. So why is that? Well, look, this is just one bloke's opinion on the internet, so take this with a pinch of salt and draw your own conclusions perhaps. But other than the box ticking I just mentioned, I find that this show does so well because of one thing: it adapts. That's right, the show based on a book, which therefore means it's an adaptation, actually adapts. You is based loosely off of a piece of media already in the form of Caroline Kepner's book series. Kemp's? I don't know, I'm sorry Caroline. Now this is a film and TV channel, so of course I don't read books. Much to the eye roll of my wife, and presumably Joe Goldberg as well I assume. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate them, and the platform by which they can sometimes give us fantastic, or awful, multimedia adaptations. However, my biggest fascination with the industry is the do or die way in which things are adapted for the screen. Do you blindly follow the scope of the written narrative to appease the already aligned fanbase and avoid the Reddit forum teardowns? Or do you start off with a nice solid base, set up by those prior works, and then head out on the beat of your own drum, hoping it hits the spot? It can be a tricky maze to navigate. Just see, well, just about everything these days. Marvel, DC, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, and most recently The Last of Us. Entities and franchises built off of previous media that have, for better or worse, headed out on their own at one point or another. They're adaptations after all, so they say. These aren't like-for-like replications of what came before. Now, from my very limited research, You deviates heavily from the source material around Season 3. Did this cause an up in arms movement? Seemingly not. Why? Because You is an excellent example of a show pivoting and adapting to keep the story new, fresh, and interesting. Season 1 introduces us to this tormented soul, a love-obsessed serial killer. Season 2 leads on from this, and further pushes his backstory and obsessions. It gives us what we already grew to love, and doubles down. By Season 3, a change is needed to keep things fresh. In come the twists, the shocks, the revelations that all isn't as it seems, and he may not be the only one with an apparent hearts in the right place screw loose. It has an epic conclusion which sends our, hero, I guess in this context, into a completely new setting and scenario. How's he going to get out of this one? Are we about to retread familiar territory in a new location? Is that the simple pivot the show wants to do in order to keep itself fresh, interesting, and relevant? No. Let's turn ourselves into a whodunit show instead. What a twist. I loved this. And whether it comes from a place of actor Penn Badgley's seemingly insistence to tone down the sexuality somewhat to keep his personal life's fidelity more well aligned, or for another reason maybe in the writer's room, I think it's simply a masterstroke. Joe Goldberg has all the aspects we know and love from any top deducer. Hell, I'd argue some of the voiceover work here lends itself to many an adaptation of Sherlock which we have seen on screen in the last 20 years or so. So why the hell not turn him into a slightly demented, deranged anti-hero of sorts? Look, we know the bloke's a bad guy, we've seen him do the love-induced obsessive murder spree, but somewhere deep down you're sort of rooting for him to figure it all out. I wouldn't quite say it redeems all he's done, yet for me at least it's given the series enough excitement and intrigue to have me guessing from episode to episode, as I too try and solve the mystery he's found himself in. Look, whilst I've got you here, for the record by the way, spoilers incoming folks for part 1 of season 4, and for what it's worth, this is probably nothing. I'm firmly of the belief that Amy Lee Hickman's student character, Nadia, has some involvement in all of this. It can't be a coincidence she's been involved so heavily in the story so far to simply just be an unaware Dr. Watson type to Joe's Holmes. I of course can't wait for this to be wrong and get shit for it in the comments.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
But anyway, let's wrap up this little ramble, eh? All in all, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I quite like the fact that the show's taken a chance on itself to mix things up and refresh the palette a bit. Shows, series, films with a basis in previous mediums sometimes need a little bit of a shake-up. Granted, it doesn't always work, but hey, it's worth a shot, and in this instance, for me at least, it's worked a charm in making you a consistently good show. I mean, after all, didn't Darwin say it best? It is not the strongest show that survives, nor the most well written. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change which becomes the most consistently good on the telly box. Well, that's enough rubbish from me anyway. I know you season 4 caused a bit of a stir, so why not let me know in the comments below what you think? If you like this, then why not give this one a whirl right here? And until next time, I'll see you in a bit.